Stand by for action.
Thank you, my name is Dave Miller. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy. I'm going to begin a series on an issue which might initially turn you off because you think it's about something that doesn't concern you. And it should, because the evil that surrounds it is something that migrates, and it has migrated to a point to the United States of America. This is something that will affect you, even though it's happening somewhere else. Now, what I'm talking about is the Brexit issue. To put it simply, it has to do with whether or not a people have the right to insist on the sovereignty of their own nation versus foreign rule by a superstate like the UN, in the case of the United States, or in the case of the UK, the European Union. Now, this series is going to be maybe several weeks long. I'm going to be using segments from the English Defense League radio show to give you details that you won't get if you just listen to the fake stream media here in the United States of America. I only have a for sure 1 hour time slot in my regular show times during the week, so I've had to segment out these 90-minute EDL radio shows. But that's an advantage for you because each week you'll have a little bit more of an understanding of this issue. How a people came together and voted and made a decision to leave a superstate, and how the left is trying to short-circuit that in favor of continued foreign rule, effectively signaling an end to the sovereignty of a nation. Now, people, this comes after an unconfirmed report that the Pope has said that the United States of America should be ruled, more or less, by the UN, quote, for their own good, end quote. Now, I haven't been able to confirm that statement, but this does outline the thinking of the left. Now, we're going to begin the series with the English Defense League radio program, which aired on the 17th of January, 2019, and this one features host Jeff Mitchell, Jan Rennie, one of the best news hounds that I've come across, and myself. This one begins to lay the groundwork to help you understand this issue and where it is today, 2.5 years after the initial vote in 2016 for the United Kingdom to leave the European Union. And be advised that I will try and put supporting documents up at UBG Contact on Twitter. That's where you can contact me with comments, questions, show suggestions, awesome American suggestions. I'm also Dave Milner on Facebook, the Tea Party Community, and MeWe, and Amagador on Trumptown and Gab. Now on with the first part.
Hi, good evening and welcome to the English Defence League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. English Defence League radio show, the truth and the voice of the EDL. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking quite a bit about the Brexit, what's happened on Tuesday nights, and lots of things we need to be discussing tonight. But we've got our full panel tonight. We've got our very own Jan, the Tornado ran out, Mr. Dave Agador Milner. And we'll be having our conversations about what's been going on this week. Not just over here, but across the United States and across the greater wider world. And with that, I'm going to now hand it to my panellists. I think Jan's there, and Dave Agador Milner as well. So, welcome, guys, to the show. I think we've got a lively show tonight, guys. A lively show.
Hello, Jeff. Jan?
Oh, good evening, Dave.
Well, I'm not sure whether you can hear me. Hello, Jeff. I couldn't even see Skype. It's gone from a screen, and I'm thinking, well, I had to take off the program as well because I was getting echoes all round. So I thought, well, if I'd get rid of the EDL and then Skype I lost, or so I thought. It's now, I've now got a screen saying, please update Skype today. Go away.
Well, Jan, it's so good to hear your voice. It's been a little while, but I had a feeling that you were joining us tonight on tonight's show because there's this was a monumental thing that's happened this week, isn't it? And we're still in the grip of Brexit, of what the politicians are trying to achieve. If they didn't, as I said in the script, and I think you would agree, Jan, they deny us our democratic right. We voted out, and the government are supposed to be committed to do what we, the people, have asked them to do: deliver our Brexit.
I dare
No
you
ifs, no
to have
buts.
another vote. I
They
dare
want
them to have another
they want another referendum. Well, that's not going to happen. I think basically the democratic system in this country is broke. If they deny us this Brexit, even if it's a hard Brexit, none of them want too bloody bad. We didn't care what was given as long as we was freed from our shackles from the EU. And Jan, I know you're very much in my corner on that. You've got a lot to talk about that tonight, I've got to admit as well, Jan. We'll examine all that, and as we start the show. I'm going to invite Dave there. Good evening, Dave, and I hope things are really quite lively over in Washington at the moment, isn't it, Dave?
Well, Jeff,
hectic,
they're live. They're lively unless you're a lefty who was expecting to fly the luxury to Europe, and you're sitting on a bus.
Well, your president stopped them in their tracks, isn't he? I mean, I suppose he can do it as well, being the commander-in-chief and head of the military.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, he's got a lot of work done it.
Trump. You know what? We're fighting against all the liberals and the lefties and the snowflakes in the world. And you know what? We have the brains. They haven't even got our souls. They haven't.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, if our government is shut down and if the lefties want the people to suffer, then why should these lefty Congress people get to use our military aircraft to fly over to Europe and do things like oppose Brexit? Because that's what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Why should they be allowed to take this political
had
trip?
that in mind, Dave, that there's people suffering, a lot of people out there, and there they was going to go swanning off trying to put themselves as the big boys, and this, that, and the other, and trying to show off to the Europeans and that. Well, as your president explained, that this is not going to happen. If they want to do this, go and meet up with the big wigs across Europe and Afghanistan, wherever they want it to go, then do it commercially. Get on a commercial flight. Do it that way. You're not using military. Yeah. That's it. I mean, he's got a right to do it, being the, commander-in-chief, isn't he? As far as I'm concerned, Dave,
you want to know something, guys?
He kept very quiet. He kept quiet about the state when Pelosi told him she needs to stop the speech that was supposed to be made. He didn't say nothing, but that was his way of saying, "Well, you're telling me that, so you're not going. You're not going to Europe. You're not using our military. We're
not on our dime.
And you want to spawn off somewhere. We want you in Washington. We need to work a deal out." And I like that, Dave. It's the first time. And a lot of the commentators were saying it's the first time that's ever happened. Brilliant.
Yeah, go ahead, Jan. You had
cool
something?
Strategy, isn't it,
Well,
Dave?
guys,
If you have a game of chess, that is a great move, isn't it?
Yeah, Jan, you had something?
Yeah, last night it was late, and I thought, what can I watch on the television? And I came across The Life of Goebbels, which was Hitler's right-hand man. And I thought,
no, he's working for CNN, yeah.
I was watching this, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, it is parallel with what's happening now. The regime, the Nazi regime.
Look at the BBC.
Stopping free. No, it's actually it was the History Channel, so nothing to do with the BBC.
No. I'm saying it's the equivalent of the BBC now,
yeah,
Jan.
They did mention the BBC, but back in them times the BBC was different. But it was about Goebbels when he first, because Goebbels I didn't realise was born, and then he had polio, and he was quite short, and he had a club foot. So that piqued my attention, and I thought, oh yeah, Goebbels, big shot in the Nazi party. He once went to a speech when Hitler was a nobody, and then it went on to how they suppressed free speech, how they arrested people that didn't go along with their regime, a bit like we're all having, how they stopped the media from reporting the truth and covered up. And it was so parallel with what's happening now, and I thought, here we go again.
So
and where did it start?
A pre-90
In Europe,
pre-60,
in Europe, Jan.
Europe
You're
again.
right.
Third World War in Europe. But it's going to be a different war. It's probably going to be more of a civilian war until we hear that Macron has issued the police with weapons to kill the left. I'm saying the left.
Well, I think he's already done
the
that.
Yellow
Jen, I mean, we were talking just before the show about one of the Yellow Jackets being shot in the back of the head. Shot in the back of the head, and he's basically brain dead, being kept alive.
He's brain dead
because it's political.
Yeah, he's on life support in a coma, which means he's brain dead. But they're not going to switch him off, because if they switch him off, Macron's killed him. So as long as he's alive and they pretend that there's a sign of life, when you're brain dead and you're on life support, he's taking up someone's space here. Normally they would switch him off. He was shot on Saturday there. It's now Thursday?
Yeah, I know.
Right.
It was tragic, really, because he went with his wife, didn't he? And she said it happened. She said that there was like rats being shot. It was just, this is how revolutions start. We've been saying it. And once they start using heavy weaponry against, normal citizens, there's going to be one hell of a backlash, because in the end, people start firing back at them. So, that is how it all starts. We've seen how revolutions start, and they've had a revolution before. France has, which is the one that we often think of the guillotine and all the nobles being nobbled. Do you like that, Jan? All the nobles being nobbled.
Yeah. Let's not talk about knobs or anything like that today in today's show, please, Jan. Behave yourself.
No, they were nobles.
You know what, guys? This is why they want a European army, which I knew years ago. I was told by an apostate that they want a European army so that the Italians can shoot the French can shoot the British, the Germans can shoot the Spanish. It's much easier to kill someone who is not your own.
Oh, yeah.
And now see, was it a Frenchman that shot that guy?
In this country,
yes, it was.
This country, if they come to use them tactics in this country, and we know that they've used heavy boy tactics, Jan, you've been a demonstration. You've seen the way they're heavy-handed against, patriots. We've seen it time and time again.
I have.
They start using bringing out heavy weaponry.
I have been linked arms at the front of a demo with a man when a police officer brought his baton down on his head and split it wide open. Yeah. And he was doing nothing. He was to me. I escaped probably because I've got long blonde hair, blue-eyed, and I'm good-looking. But who knows, But
it's the rules, isn't it, Jen? That's what does it.
Yes, they do antagonise. And yes, I've been to many demonstrations where the police are the aggressors. Yeah. I have seen men dragged out of a line that's done nothing, and 6 of them holding them down and putting their knees and bashing on the back of their heads. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've witnessed it.
Well, we know.
And you want to come forward and protect them, but you're going to come down with a baton. I have seen people put in the back of a dog van and sat in the sunshine with 100-degree temperatures and not taken to a police station. They're holding them and nearly died through heat and exhaustion. That's what they do to us. And I'm going back 8-9 years.
Yeah, no, Jan. We know. We know those times. You know, if they start to use them tactics and people get serious brain. Well, we've lost one patriot in custody. We know that. You know, Kevin Graham.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we Koreans, let's say, we lost that patriot. He died under very suspicious circumstances. I still say he was murdered. Whatever. He was in custody of the HMP, and they, you know, he should have been well looked after. No, he was found dead, and I think it just goes to show you. But you know, people, we don't forget. We don't forget our fallen patriots, do we, Jan? That's something that we've never done.
I'll tell you something, Jeff.
Yeah.
Touch one of mine, and I will kill. Touch one of mine, and I won't wait for no report. I will kill.
Yep.
There's your
No,
arrest me.
I'm with you. I don't say too much because I know the way I am. I'm not quite as healthy as I used to be. But sometimes you don't have to be 100% healthy. If you've got something in your head that needs to be done, that's all I'm saying. Jan, I don't say too much because you know what they're like. They listen into what we say. And
certainly.
But yeah, it's a pre-warning to anything happens to my grandchildren.
I'm so tired of living like we've lived since the 50s and the 60s, and we've seen what's been going on. We have known long before the rest of Europe, long before the United States. We've seen the plan in action since we were children, Jeff. And it's so frustrating that we're at the peak of exposing them all and being silenced for exposing them, finally exposing them.
Well, that's what they want. They want that. You know, they do. And I mean, all of this is surrounding, you know, the whole Brexit deal and everything else. I think Gerard Batten was correct. There was ever only a vote for Brexit.
Dave, I just put that link
because,
that you've given me in the chat room, buddy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, Jeff. Yeah, that's fine. That's good. Glad you did, man. And welcome to everybody in chat. No, I think Batten was right about that. The only reason there was a Brexit vote at all was because the government was afraid that there would be a UKIP uprising, you know, but they expected the Brexit vote to lose, and it didn't, and now they're just trying to get rid of it. Guys, if you'd like, I'll go ahead and play this. This from Gerard Batten. It's okay. It says it's about 6.5 minutes. This will outline for everyone a bit of what's going on because, especially over here in the United States, the only thing people are seeing, if they look at the news at all, is complete chaos. And I think this will explain things for our American listeners and for everyone from other countries. Gerard Batten is the leader of the United Kingdom Independence Party. And this is him in an interview on RT, which he could not get an interview on any of the UK outlets because they don't want to hear what he has to say. So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and play this, and then we can all comment on it. All right? Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So Theresa May's still there, but there's little movement from the EU. It is looking increasingly like no Brexit, isn't it?
I've been astounded by what I've been listening to on your programme before I've come on. The Remainers, the establishment Remainers have been counter-attacking for the last 2.5 years with the assistance of Mrs May, with the assistance of the Commission to get to this position where we are now, not really leaving. This whole 2.5-year political charade has been conducted on the false premise that you can't leave without a deal. And of course, you ended up with a deal that nobody wants. The Remainers don't want it, the Leavers don't want it, and so therefore we now have this situation where they're talking about extending Article 50. That can go on indefinitely. Don't forget that in the Withdrawal Act itself, in the small print, it allows the 29th of March this this year to be extended as the leaving date. And this is exactly what I predicted they would do. I'm very sorry to be proved right in this, but so far I've been pretty accurate. They have done everything they possibly can to delay and impede the whole process so that they can overturn the result of the referendum. It doesn't surprise me that Mrs May survived, because the Tories don't want a Labour government, the DUP don't want a Labour government, and she's hung on by about 19 votes this evening. And now we're gearing up to a situation.
And sorry to interrupt, but there was Theresa May saying, look, it's either no Brexit, no deal. And of course, then you're saying, yes, no deal is absolutely the way we should go, but there's no political will, is there? The Finance Bill amendment says the Parliament must authorise it. The government's shackled from doing that.
Well, first of all, the no deal is a false premise as well. There never was going to be a deal. There never is going to be a deal. There was always going to be, if we ever left, and this is something I've been saying for the last 26 years, the only way you'll ever leave is if a British government takes control of the situation and we leave unilaterally and unconditionally, repeal the 1972 Act, leave, and then tell the European Union how it's going to work. It's the only way it's ever going to work. It'll never work any other way, because the European Union is never going to agree to this mythical good deal. Why on earth should they? They don't want us to leave. And this is what this whole process is about. And let's not forget, not only did we win the referendum leave back in June 2016, there was an election in 2017 in which all the major parties said that they would implement the result of that referendum. 85+% of the candidates in that election did so on manifestos which said that they would implement the decision of the referendum. They were all lying, not all of them, sorry, but a majority in Parliament were lying. They've got no intention of doing this, and this is going to cause the biggest constitutional crisis in England since 1642, when the King put himself in opposition to the Parliament. He lost his head. Now Parliament is putting itself in opposition to the people, and we don't know where this is going to go.
Some will dispute the fact you say the EU simply doesn't want the UK to leave, but of course, and you're very suspicious about the extension of Article 50 delaying Brexit, but of course, if that did happen, Theresa May could change tack, go back to the EU, go for a customs union, as Jeremy Corbyn wants, and the EU has actually said that is an option. So extending the Article 50 could get the concessions that Theresa May wants, and she could get the support for it.
Well, if you have a customs union, you haven't left the European Union. That's the whole point. And what I've been saying is what I believe their strategy to be, and are very sad and unfortunately seem to be proved right, is that they want to arrive at a situation where we have this not really leaving deal, and even all the concessions we've made are not good enough for the EU. They'll want some more. Then, of course, we don't leave, and then after a year or two, they can take us back in. What we're seeing now, and you were discussing the European elections there a bit earlier on, is that I believe that what they're trying to do is to make sure that we don't have British candidates in those European elections. They will extend Article 50 up to the end of this term, which is the 23rd of May, I think. And then beyond that, we won't have any UK MEPs. Mrs May desperately wants to get rid of the UKIP MEPs. And then they will say, oh, we have to extend it for another 6 months or a year, and then after a year or two, then they'll be free, they hope, to take us back into the European Union. They say it's all a terrific mistake, you know, and we're going to reverse the decision of the referendum. You already heard somebody on your programme earlier on saying we don't have to respect the decision of the referendum. That's how the political and media class think in our country. And they've never had any intention of allowing this to happen.
So why then, if they're not going to respect,
if they're not going to,
okay, direct assault on democracy, and yet many would say we're seeing democracy in action by politicians calling for a second referendum. Give the people a say again. Well, don't forget why we had the referendum in the first place. After then it was, I think, 42, 43 years of membership of the EU. This issue could never be reconciled amongst the politicians. While a majority of them wanted it, quite a lot didn't. So what they did, in order to reconcile this problem, and of course David Cameron took the decision to have a referendum because of the UKIP electoral threat, what we'll do is we'll go to the people and ask them and let them resolve the issue. And what happened? We resolved the issue. The British people said they wanted to leave by a clear majority. And now they're saying they're not going to implement it. This is a coup d'etat by the political establishment against the people.
Well, yeah.
And there you go.
Yeah, well, you know, he was spot on there. And basically, he gives us no option, the Brexiteers out here. The politicians don't really understand the mindset of working class people who've waited so long to have a referendum to vote out of the EU, because we know it bodes no good for the future of our children and future generations. So that's the reason why a lot of us who don't often vote, myself like many others, never really had anything to do with politics apart from voting for UKIP on a couple of occasions and voted for anybody else. But that was probably one of the most important votes that I'd done. And, it was telling us all, the mainstream media was saying, it's a foregone conclusion that we will remain in Europe. And the following morning when I woke up and I looked on the news and I found out, or heard actually, on the radio, that we'd won the victory, that we was getting out of the EU. That was it. That set us all up. I mean, I think we was rejoicing for days, wasn't we, Jan? And was United States. I mean, most people who thinks a lot of this country and the people of this country was with the Brexiteers, especially your president. You had Obama come over here to try to make us say to vote, to remain and all that. Well, Donald Trump said, get out, you don't need to. And more people took notice of your president now than they did of Obama at the time, Dave. So it says a lot. But also I'd say to the politicians out there that if this falls through of not leaving on the 28th or the 29th of March, it's going to be hard times, because the people of this country, we will not accept you going against our democratic vote. That is a constitutional crisis and also a cause for mass, a civil uprising with what I do believe is something the worst that you can possibly do to the voter, to votes in good, votes for the right thing, what he believes, and told, no, we can't do that because, this, that, and the other. There's no excuse. Out means bloody out, doesn't it, guys? And
the left lost, and they want to do over. Yeah. Jeff, I just want to. Jan has prepared a lot of stuff for us on some of these individuals in Europe. Jan, do you want to roll with some of that now?
Can I just mention UKIP?
Sure, go ahead.
Nigel Farage was the one who pushed for years for independence from Europe. Nigel Farage was the head of UKIP. UKIP means United Kingdom Independence Party, which we have got at the skin of our teeth. It's still going through. Hopefully with a no-deal Brexit. So the UKIP either need to reform with a different name now. They need to get candidates out there to allow us to vote for a right-wing party. I have always voted Conservative. When I moved to Scotland, there was no such thing as Conservative in my constituency. It was SNP or Labour. Last time there was a vote, there was a UKIP member who obviously I voted for. But now we have one UKIP member in the UK who's an active MP. We have 3 in the House of Lords. We have 17 in the European Union. Their job is done now, almost. So where does that leave us with UKIP? It's a 2-horse race right now. It's either Conservative or Labour until we have a party who is right-wing, because the Conservatives have been infiltrated by Liberals, without a doubt. One of them being Theresa May.
Oh, definitely.
And here is what I've put together about. I can't
Yep.
take credit for this. This is from a man, an Italian economist, who I have been. Well, let's just say I'm copying what he's said. Europe is 1,200 billion euros in the red. Europe from 2007 has lost its GDP. Now, GDP is gross domestic product. It's a monetary measure of the market value of all the final goods to determine economic performance on a whole country or a region. That's called GDP. The European Union has no chance of recovering this amount of 1,200 billion euros. America today has gained all of their GDP and added 10% of its national wealth. This is not good for Europe, and Brussels knows this. Europe has a current account of France, Italy and Spain of 1,200 billion in the red, as well as all having the double the employment rate of the UK. There are banking gaps of 1.7 trillion euros in Europe that can never be recovered. 1.7 billion euros that can never be recovered. I'd like to reiterate that. They say Brexit will bring change to the UK. Well, of course it will, but for the better. The following data comes from the biggest think tank in Europe of economy, politics and the EU Commission Data Bank. Here's the following data. The maximum loss for the UK upon our exit from the EU is just 1% of this GDP. The most loss of the City of London, which has the largest financial centre in the European business, is 1.1% GDP. Then there's the threat of the commercial bloc. The UK is going to leave the European commercial bloc, but one detail that no one considers is this, that Europe exports to the UK 10 times more than what the UK is allowed to export to Europe. It will be difficult for France, Germany, Italy and Spain when they lose billions of euros by the UK refusing and blocking their exports to the UK. Then there's the threat of loss from the single market. There are 500 million of potential European consumers that are in great trouble whilst the UK, deregulated and outside of the EU, has something like 2.2 billion of potential customers in emerging countries. They then say Brexit will affect companies. It's bullshit. It only affects 0.4% of the huge British companies. Companies like Shell, BP, Glaxo, Vodafone and Unilever. Now here's the advantages of Brexit. Freedom of deregulates the UK to have access to free trade. Treaties to 2.2 billion potential customers, which we don't have today. No more financial losses to small and medium companies who lose 760 million euros each week. These are small companies and businesses in Britain use 760 million, by the way, a week. Due to the suffocating Soviet authoritarian bureaucracy of Brussels, the EU blocks the contestability to British companies, which means there is no access to the boundaries set by the greatly boasted European Union. The UK exports 12% to the EU, but 100% of its economy is blocked by the suffocating laws of Brussels. London, which could lose 1.1%, will be able to expect 10% of the British GDP in the whole world and the UK. Besides having the biggest financial centre in the world, here's another interesting thing. Petroleum, and it's a great petroleum, because Brent has the largest reserve of any other European country. Now, my next part. In 1993, the German Constitutional Court emits a judgment that states the European Parliament is a non-democratic tool. This is in the law courts in Germany, by the way. There is something else that has to be considered. The loss of determination of European people who have been ground into the ground, and because of this, there have been great shifts in power towards the right wing. We have seen this in France with Le Pen in Austria, with Hofer, Golden Dawn in Greece, etc., etc. With the UK out of this trap, it is now free from political parties that are for the European market. The Brits want to leave this economicide from this authoritarian EU. Then why are Bilderberg men trembling? What are huge companies afraid of? They are not scared of economic loss. They are scared of the loss of control over a neo-feudal, authentistical and anti-democratic project called the European Union. There you go, lads. Thoughts on that?
Well, Jan, I will. I'll pick up for a second here.
I'm sorry, Jan.
You know, we do have a. But I'll pick up for just a second on that. Yeah, I mean, Europe is. It's what you're reading about. Basically, just says that Europe is sinking and it needs money. That's basically it. And there's no reason at all for anyone to support them because they're not going to do anything to get money back. All they're going to basically do is just be a big leech on everyone, and they're going to get people's money and spend it on their corrupt selves. And you put out a thing, you put out a meme, Jan, and I'm going to read some of this. Okay, now here we go. Now this is Meet the Remainers. You put this out, hon. This is an individual named Mendelssohn. Okay, gets £673,000 a year from an EU pension. Someone else, Kinnock, £1,700,000 EU pension. And one named Heseltine, £90,000 pounds for an EU farming subsidy. Yeah, very nice. Let's see, Tugendhat, okay, £796,000 EU pension. Someone named Patton, £777,000 for an EU pension. All right, and the last, and perhaps the least, but this is still something to consider. A lady named Ashton at £228,000. That's an EU pension. Unelected. I mean, these people are just basically parasites.
They are parasites. And I'll tell you something about Heseltine. I am surrounded by farmland. Okay, some fields are being cropped, but most. I'm in Scotland, but I also know it happens in England too. Mm-hmm. From the get-go, the European Union paid the farmers not to plough their fields or grow a thing. And for every acre, they got paid money to leave them dormant, which is still going on. So now, get off your arses, farmers, and start ploughing your fields. If you can't manage it, sell your farms, give it to someone who can plough the fields. We are being paid to not work our farms, and that pisses me off.
And by the way, Jeff, before you throw in your comment, I just want to say for all the stuff that Jan read, everybody, okay, in the UK, our listeners, I pulled up the exchange rate. The exchange rate for is €1 for every 0.88 pounds. In other words, basically 88 pence. If you guys have it that way, equals €1. So the figures that Jan read, throw an extra 20% on top of that in the UK, and throw an extra about 30 to 40% on top of that if you're in the United States. That's how much money these parasites are wasting.
Yep.
And that concludes the first half, more or less, of this English Defense League radio show. Next week, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, you'll get part 2 and an even deeper understanding of the Brexit issue. And that is it for this time. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening, and may your God go with you. Goodbye. The Unpleasant Blind Guy is copyright 2019. Anno Domini. Now for Dave's Canes. Extras that help you navigate the new media world.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunetz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunetz.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.